Hi there. We're continuing our journey through the Psalms and the Tehillim, that's the praises in Hebrew, and we're in Psalm 104, that's Psalm Kof Dalet in the Hebrew numbering system. Kof is the letter for 100 and Dalet is the letter for 4. And so this launches straight in with the similar start to the previous Psalm, Psalm 103. Barchi nafshi ad Adonai, bless the Lord, O my soul, bless, give him the glory, make him happy, give him the honor. And then it's going to be a psalm that really, its first part, focuses in on the glory of creation, of what God has done in the magnificence of the world that he has made, the things he's made. So it starts by saying, Lord, you are clothed with majesty and splendor. Od verdar levashta, you've put it on like a garment. You wear it like a robe. Beauty and majesty and splendor are yours. It says you wrap yourself in light as a garment. Remember, light is the first thing that God makes in creation. And he says he stretches out the heavens like a tent, the firmament, the atmosphere that God created, the rakia. He stretches it out like a tent. And then he makes his house, he's building his house on the waters. Now, water, remember, in the ancient understanding is always a sign of chaos. It's a sign of the unruly. It needs to be ruled. It needs to be reigned over. Something needs to be made of it. And so there's a lot here about how God confines the waters and he puts them in a certain place. So first of all, he rides on the winds. He makes winds his messengers and flames of fire. He's using wind and fire belong to him. He sets the earth on foundations so it can't be moved and covers it with the waters like a garment. And here it says in verse 6, at your command the waters fled. That is the waters of chaos, that the waters turned back. The waters that threaten, at the beginning it talks about everything was tohu vavohu in Genesis 1. Everything was upside down. Everything was all over the place and crazy. But God speaks light into being, and then he moves the waters into the place. He divides the waters from the land. And so at the sound of God's voice, they take flight, it says. They flow over the mountains. The mountains come up and then they go down. The waters go down into the valleys. They find their place. They're no longer covering the earth. They're actually going, as the singer says, to the place that God has marked for them. And he sets a boundary for them. And they're not going to overtake the earth again. And then it says this water systems here, the springs go down into the valleys and they flow down through the mountains. This amazing picture of the water systems of the world, that naturally water flows downhill. And that leads to all the creatures of the earth being supplied and fed. The birds of the field, the animals in the fields, that they all are able to be satisfied because of what God. He waters the mountains from his chambers, and the land is satisfied by what he's done. He makes grass grow, so there's then the cattle, the domestic creatures as well as the wild creatures, and then there's plants for people to cultivate. So there's crops, all because God has ordered the water systems, because he sends the rain and he lets the water flow into the place. And then there's wine that makes the heart glad. Yes, wine is good. Wine gladdens the heart. Oil that makes faces shine. Bread that gives our life to us. That's just blessing the Lord for the beautiful common things that all come from the glory of his creation. The birds are making their nests. The stork, the hasidah in Hebrew, the hasidah, the faithful bird, has its home in the junipers, probably called the faithful bird because it comes back to the same place each year. The mountains with the wild goats, crags belonging to the rock rabbits, and also he marks out seasons. So it's not just one continuous way of being. God has set the sun and the moon in place to mark seasons that pass, and the sun knowing when to come up and when to go down. And then there's darkness so that everyone can sleep, but the nocturnal animals can come out and they can prowl. The lions looking for their prey at night and seeking food. And all this comes from God. The people are going out to their work during the daytime and they work until evening. So the sun and moon mark the limits of the work that men do and that people do. And this is all part of God's provision in creation. And then in verse 24, this amazing amazing expression, outburst of praise. What a multitude of things you've done, Lord. How many are your works? In wisdom you made them all, and the earth is filled with your creation. As we look around us, as we see the beauty of what God has put around us, we see the beauty of the earth. We want to continue that. We want to continue blessing God for his earth, but also blessing the earth he's made, that we have been made stewards of. Let's recognize the wonder of creation and how God is continuing to set us in a place of stewarding that and caring for that. Have a good day.